G'day and welcome to AOS Coach. In this video, we are going to look at the Age of Sigmar FAQs that were brought out in January 2021 that is going to impact the game from January till approximately June, July 2021 up until the next General's Handbook. And if you're not familiar, you're new to the game and you're not familiar with the FAQ cycle, we normally have two big changes that come into play in our game every year. One is the mid-year General's Handbook update. So normally that is June, July. And then we also have a bit of a mid-year kind of check-in, which is known as the Winter FAQ. And at this time, we may see rules adjustments, points adjustments, war scroll changes. There could be anything that comes in from Games Workshop based on the results and the feedback from playtesters, from tournaments, from general observations in gameplay. Now, if you were thinking that my local Seraphon, Kharadron Overlords, Tzeentch player, Lumineth player has been really grinding my gears, and I want them to be hit with a bit of a nerf bat, and I want them to kind of see Lord Croak get his points jacked up, or change the pricing of the Ironclads, or Salamander rules change. Unfortunately, this FAQ did not help you whatsoever. No nerf bat was swung at anybody. Although there has been some adjustments, there has been some changes, there has been no points increase whatsoever. Now, if you're a Beast of Chaos player or a Sylvaneth player, or if you're a player who thinks that their points are a little bit too expensive and you were hoping for an adjustment, again, unfortunately for you, the raise of points adjustments didn't shine on you, and you didn't get any increases or decreases. So there was no points changes whatsoever, but there were some rule changes. So constructively, I'm going to go through the different changes and show you what has changed and maybe some insights on how this might come into play. So without further ado, let's bring up the Games Workshop FAQ page. This FAQ page is on just on your gamesworkshop.com. You will find it. And the FAQs house not just Age of Sigmar, but also 40k, Heresy, and things like that. As you scroll down, the page will be adjusted by the recent updates, but you can change your filter, and you will notice which rules have been updated. So you can see here we've got an update date of the 25th of January 2021, and you will see that Tzeentch, Flesh Eater Court, Seraphon, basing size, Lumineth Realm Lords, Kharadron Overlords, Malign Sorcery, Core Rules, Nighthaunt, and General's Handbook, as well as Broken Realms Morathi, have been impacted by this particular FAQ. However, things like Cities of Sigmar, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Ogre Moor Tribes, you'll notice their dates are from last year or the year prior. So we know what has been impacted. And when we go into each of these documents, you will notice that there is date. So we can see if it is coming into play now or if they're old rules. And how do we know which rule is new versus which isn't? You'll see this magneta, or this kind of pinkish red, come into play. So anything that is this color has been recently added to the FAQ or errata. So the first thing we'll look at is the basing guide. It's a simple and easy one. There's only one particular base that has changed, and that is in Destruction, specifically Mork's Mighty Mushroom, which is the Gloomspite Gitz Endless spell. This is more of a correction than it is a change on the spell size. Doesn't mean you have to go out there and adjust your Mork's Mighty Mushroom. It does come with a 65 mil base. And unfortunately, in a previous errata, I do believe there was a slight error where it said 50 mils. So it is actually a 65 mil. You can't buy 65 mil. So the best thing they've done is listed as a 60 mil base. As a tournament organizer, do I expect you to remove your model from its 65 mil base and put it on a 60 mil base? The answer is no. Don't stress. Not an issue. Let's move along here. It is a simple and easy one. No other changes when it comes to basing. Let's look at some of the rules that have come into play. The first one we'll look at is the Disciples of Tzeentch. As we go through it, you will see all the old rules, but we do have two changes here. The first one here says, can the change caster's Fortune and Fate ability trigger more than once in the same hero phase if the casting roll is an extra spell is a 9+? The answer is yes. So should you roll a 9+, you will get the extra Fortune and Fate. Pretty simple, pretty easy. The other one is coming from the Lord of Change, the Mastery of Magic ability, which basically when you're rolling to cast or unbind, you change the lowest D6 to the highest D6. And it says, does changing the dice roll with the Mastery of Magic ability count as a modifier? The answer is yes. So it's not counting as a natural dice roll. This may come into play in certain times during the game. However, it is now counting as a modifier. So the answer is yes here. Otherwise, no major changes here to Tzeentch. The next one is Flesh Eater Courts, and potentially this could be the hardest change that's happened in the FAQs, and it's going to hit people who are likely a Grizzlegore player the most. And the change here is in the War Scroll Battalion for the Royal Family. So the actual construct of the Royal Family is mostly the same. You still will take the one Abhorrent Archregent or one Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist or one Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Zombie Dragon. But the changes come with some additional text here. So instead of just taking 2 to 6 Abhorrent Ghoul Kings, we have added the additional words that say that does not have mounts. So traditionally, or in the past, some Flesh Eater Courts players, especially Grizzlegore players, would look to reduce their drops by using this battalion to have 2, 3, 4 Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeists to get that free CP, to lower that drop, to potentially organize who's going to go first and maybe get that early charge in. Now, this is going to mean that you're not going to be able to put in those extra 2, 3, 4 Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragons, although you're probably taking a Terrorgeist. So either you aren't taking this battalion and you've increased your drops, or you're going to have to take the 2 additional Ghoul Kings Ghoul Kings that aren't mounted, by the way, to reduce those drops in your army. However, it's a bit of a tax. So otherwise, the actual rules don't change for how the courtier works and all the stuff with the mounts. It's just that we've now added that you've got to have you're not allowed to have a mount for those Abhorrent Ghoul Kings. So sorry, Flesh Eater Courts, that one is a little bit hard. Otherwise, no additional changes here. Next one we have here is Seraphon. Now, Seraphon, you're wondering, come on, Lord Croak, you're going to get a change. Unfortunately, it is going to go into the Skink spell lore. So we do have one change, which is the Lord of Celestial Manipulation. It is essentially the spell lore for a Skink spellcaster, and specifically the changes come in with Bind Endless Spells. Now, Bind Endless Spells allows you to normally pick one endless spell within 18 of the caster and manipulate it in some fashion. Basically, the change here is that you cannot manipulate an endless spell that is soul linked. So that's really just unless another thing comes in the future. At the moment, it's just going to impact any of those Ossiarch Bone Reaper endless spells. So you can't manipulate or impact them with the Bind Endless Spell rule. Although, to be fair, probably not taking that spell anyway, but if you were, you can't do it anymore. Otherwise, Seraphon, no changes here. Everything else remains the same. The next one we have here is Malign Sorcery. And while it's a Malign Sorcery change, it's more actually towards Daughters of Khaine. Now, the Daughters of Khaine rule here, it's specific to Daughters of Khaine, no one else. And it is in relation to Small Morathi, or now known as Morathi Khaine, and the Balewind Vortex. If you have the Balewind Vortex, you cannot use Morathi with the Balewind Vortex. So we do add the additional text here that Morathi Khaine cannot attempt to cast this spell. It does mean other spellcasters can cast the Balewind Vortex, but not specifically Morathi Khaine. So it doesn't mean you're going to get a 42-inch Black Horror of Ulgu. It does mean that you can't use the extra +6 inches, the +1 save to Morathi Khaine, but you could do it with other spellcasters. This change does not impact any other armies other than Daughters of Khaine. Otherwise, Malign Sorcery, no changes here, folks. The next one here, we've got the Kharadron Overlords. The Kharadron Overlords have had one change, and it is a small increase to the words here. And this is specifically referring to the emergency vest plates, and that is a part of the Aether Gold inventions. And what they have done here is they've just clarified with some additional text. So in the past, it would just say, if you do so, subtract 1 from the hit rolls of targets that the bearer or any friendly unit wholly within 6 inches of the bearer. What they've now done to this particular rule is they've added a bit of a clarification on how long this rule is in play. So they've now added that when you activate the emergency event plates, it is only until the end of that phase. So it doesn't end until your next hero phase. It doesn't end till the end of the battle round. They've specified that it only is in play until the end of their phase. And from memory, this is a once per game effect. So do choose carefully on where you make this, you use this rule. There were some other Kharadron Overlords, a bit of clarity, and there was some clarification on the flying transport and the relationship with the Marines, I think it was, as well as the Iron Sky Attack Squadron. So do check the errata. You've got your errata and you do have designer commentary. So do check out both of the documents, because you might find that some rules are in one, some rules are in other. So Kharadron Overlords, you've got some clarity there as well. So and this is actually funnily where I'm talking. So you will find here, can the Marine join a garrison of a friendly sky vessel with the flying transport, blah, blah, blah. And same as the Barrack Zilfin army using the Archanaut company from this Iron Sky Attack Squadron. So we've clarified, can I or can't I use this? The next one comes from the Lumineth Realm Lords. The Lumineth Realm Lords, while only recently FAQ'd because their battle tome isn't that old, we do have one additional adjustment here. And it says, can I use the Seeing Stone of, I'm not going to pronounce that, Kelenar rule to ignore the effects of an endless spell cast by a friendly wizard? The answer is no. So if you cast if a friendly wizard casts an endless spell, you cannot ignore the effect by using the Seeing Stone. Otherwise, Kharadron Overlord isn't affected. Nighthaunt's an interesting one. The Nighthaunt didn't get a change, although technically when of release, there has been some point increases, although I think it's just a copy and paste error, guys. I'm sure it's going to be changed back to the points pre-FAQ. So take that with a grain of salt. But we have one additional change that probably should have happened a while ago, but I'm happy it's happened now. And that is the Briar Queen has gained the wizard keyword. So when we look at the Briar Queen's War Scroll, the Briar Queen is already a wizard. It already cast the spell Howling Vortex. You can attempt to cast one spell during your hero phase and unbind one spell in your enemy phase, but it didn't ever have the wizard keyword. So this may impact any of your synergies, any of your buffs, any of the ways that your army might impact. So good news, we now have the wizard keywords. Please add it to the Briar Queen. A great little war scroll from the Underworld's Warband. We now have it in play. Happy days. The next one comes in with Broken Realms Morathi. Now, this is one that we've been waiting for a little bit now. We did have a whole bunch of armies in Broken Realms Morathi. We did have some additions to the Daughters of Khaine, to the Idoneth Deepkin, to Cities of Sigmar, Stormcast Eternals, as well as a Slaves to Darkness build around the Idolaters. So we do have, and this one's probably a little bit chunkier than the rest, being that we have more than one army in there. So the first one we have is the Cities of Sigmar. We do have, and by the way, if you're wondering why this is not in Magneta, that's because this is a brand new FAQ. So it's all new technically. So do keep that in mind. These are all in play. With Misthaven, which is one of the Cities of Sigmar that is a part of Broken Realms, we have a clarification. So we have changed the text of how the narcotics work. In the past, the narcotics were based on you get one narcotic at the start, and then you would get an additional narcotic for every War Scroll battalion that you took. This is now changed, and instead of it being based on your War Scroll battalions, it is now based on the artifacts. So at minimum, your Misthaven armies are going to have two narcotics. One, because that's what you get, standard one just up front, and one because every army is going to start with one artifact of power. So you automatically get two. Should you get one or more War Scroll battalions, this narcotic rule will go up to 3, 4, 5, however many battalions you squeeze in. So Cities of Sigmar, folks, that is your one and only real change. When it comes to the Stormcast Eternals, we do have we have one clarification. But in the designers' commentaries, we will have some extra stuff with the Stormcast. But let me go back just to the FAQ, and that is based around the relationship between the Storm Keeps of the Stormcast Eternals and the Cities of Sigmar, being that you're able to bring in 1 in 4. So Cities of Sigmar, folks, you know you can bring in 1 in 4 Stormcast, and they gain the keywords of Living City, Hallow Heart. They gain essentially the keywords for that battle tome. Now, does that happen in reverse? The answer is no. You do not get it. So basically, so the rule's going to change. So it says 1 in every 4 units of the Stormkeep army can be a Cities of Sigmar unit. Cool. That doesn't change. Those units cannot be the army general. Okay, so I can't bring in like a free guild general on foot. I can't bring in an anointed. I can't bring in some type of maybe a Frost Phoenix or a Flame Spy Phoenix. So I can't make them my general if they are Cities of Sigmar. I get to add 1 to the bravery characteristics for units that are wholly within 12 of a friendly liberator. That doesn't change. In addition, when you pick a unit to benefit from the command ability from the Battle Tome Stormcast, you can treat those units as if they were Stormcast. So really the main clarification here is the you can't make the city's unit a general. And although if you were a cities player bringing in a Stormcast, you can make your Stormcast a general, which kind of makes sense, as if a Stormcast is going to be listening to some little anointed on foot. So makes complete sense to me. When it comes to your Slaves to Darkness, there are 2 clarifications here, although they're kind of the same, or they're kind of in the same theme. When it comes to your idolaters, we're going to change the Palapy of Ruin, and basically the idolater cultists are going to get the keyword of the Mark of Chaos. So you can Mark of Chaos your cultists, which we know become battle line in an idolater should you take the idolater lord or the Gorebeast chariot as general. Once you kind of manipulate those things, you can mark your iron golems, your untamed beasts, whatever warcry warbands you might bring, or your those cultists you bring into your army. You can mark them as Nurgle, Tzeentch, Khorne, Slaanesh, or Undivided. So if you're taking something like a War Shrine or some type of buff piece, or some type of lord that's going to give you a buff using the keyword of Khorne, you could Khorne your cultists. So good news. That is a wonderful change. I'm certainly one that I think cultist players would be very happy with. The other one here is that your idolater lord is going to gain an additional keyword. So it was already gaining the idolater lord keyword. It was already gaining the hero and the priest keyword. But what you've now done is you've got the Eyes of the Gods keyword. So you've now added an additional rule, which if you remember what that is basically once it kills, should that hero kill a unit in combat, you do get to roll a dice, and basically you could be given some free buffs. It could be giving you a free demon print if you roll an 11 or a 12. Those rules are in your Slaves to Darkness battle tome. So good news, your idolater lord on his chariot is going to be picking up some additional rules. Great news. Happy days. The other clarifications that have come in is, do the Cities of Sigmar units that I include in a Stormkeep gain the Stormcast keyword? The answer is no. So do they gain the Stormhost keyword? No. Can Cities of Sigmar units in a Stormkeep army benefit from sub-faction command abilities? So, for example, if you were your Anvils of Heldenhammer, which allows you to shoot in your hero phase or make a pile in, like there's some additional, attack sequences. Can my Cities of Sigmar units do that? No. So even if I was to bring in a unit of, 30 handgunners or, 30 Iron Drakes, even though your Stormcast might be Anvils of Heldenhammer, no, your Iron Drakes could not shoot in the hero phase. Only your Stormcast units are going to be able to take advantage of your Anvils of Heldenhammer, for example, but also Hammers of Sigmar and the other sub-factions that are available. The other change comes in here, and this one's more about the Daughters of Khaine, and that is the new Daughters of Khaine War Scroll battalions available for the Temples of Khaine other than Xanthar Kai, or as we know are the Cobra Kai. So if you're taking Hagnar, you're taking Calibron, Drakey Ganeth, or the Kraith, Chuck Moore, I'd never forget the Kraith for you, brother, does can I use these new War Scroll battalions? And the answer is yes. So I don't have to be Xanthar Kai to use those 3 additional War Scrolls, which were what were they? They were the Vampiric Guard, the Scathe Coven, and the Shrine Brood, though they all can be brought into any of the temples. So while we do know there is a new Daughters of Khaine battle tome coming, we don't know obviously how long this will be in play until we are told otherwise. These Xanthar Kai can be brought into other temples. There are some final updates here. Some might be impactful, some might not be. Some of these are super basic and probably don't need to worry about. But the ones that I did want to call out, there were 2 quick ones that I wanted to call out. One is this one here, is can models set up in reserve, for example, and if they were set up in the, let's say, the Celestial Realm, could they cast spells? Could they use their abilities or their command abilities when they're in reserve? The answer is no. So a big example of this coming into play is people would run Drycha in the Living City list, and you can keep certain units off the table. And Drycha's ability, which allows you to pick a mercurial aspect of either being enraged or embittered, you wouldn't be able to do that while Drycha is in reserve. So while that wouldn't be important during the hero phase, when you brought Drycha in from the side of the board, should either be enraged or embittered, and should be buffed up, ready to get into combat. So basically, long story short, is if you have something off the board in reserve, they cannot cast spells, they cannot use abilities, they cannot use command abilities. So mostly this has been very basic. People probably know this, but there were a few examples like Drycha where people found a loophole to make the most of both worlds. There is one final one that I wanted to call out here, and that is, where is she? One more. This one here. So some abilities such as the Kharadron Overlord's command trait of Bearer of the Iron Star and the Seraphon artifact power of Incandescent Retries allows a model that would have been slain to instead heal wounds allocated to it and ignore any wounds yet to be allocated. So let's say your model was killed by regular damage, and then there were some additional mortal wounds that were to be dealt. However, your model was already dead. Now, if that model was to come back to life, as these 2 abilities or artifacts would allow you to do, what happens with those additional mortal wounds yet to be allocated? So basically what it's saying here is you would ignore those additional mortal wounds. So even though this model has come back to life, the attack sequence has ended, and those additional mortal wounds have gone to waste. So you don't need to allocate them whatsoever. Otherwise, there is no additional changes in the core rules. So that is our FAQ, guys. I'm sure there is going to be a few others that I might have missed. I mean, there was a couple that we didn't really talk about. I thought they were quite basic, quite easy to understand, so we didn't actually go through them. However, I would highly recommend, if you are playing any of these armies, whether it's your Disciples of Tzeentch, Flesh Eater Court, Seraphon, your Kharadron Overlords, your Slaves to Darkness, your Stormcast Eternals, your Nighthaunt. I think that was all impacted. They were the ones that were impacted. If you're a Ogre Moor tribe, Cities of Sigmar, you are your Gloomspite Gits didn't really get impacted. So if you're playing any of those armies, the Winter FAQ didn't change you whatsoever. And if you were worried about points adjustments, there were no points adjustments in this FAQ. So your army will stay the same up until General's Handbook 2021, unless something comes out of the blue and tells us a little bit differently. So I hope this was a little bit helpful. Again, it wasn't the most comprehensive FAQ. However, in the current climate of not a lot of tournaments, not a lot of big scaled events, and with Broken Realms coming, I think that's one thing that people are missing in the Twitter and online rage, is that you can't see the forest from the trees, because we do have so many Broken Realms books potentially to come between now and General's Handbook 2021. So while you might think that, Sylvaneth needed a points adjustment, Sylvaneth needed to go down, Beasts of Chaos might need to go down, Legions of Nagash needed to go down. We don't know how the Grey Lords are going to come in and what they're going to do to the army book. We don't know if Beasts of Chaos are going to get a big increase in Broken Realms. We just don't know. So again, run the army. I'd be curious to see from you if anything has changed in your lists. For me, when I look at all this stuff, it's like business as usual. Nothing's really changed. But if there is something that has changed, pop it down in the comments below. I'd be interested to hear maybe what I've missed, or maybe an effect of a rule change that has impacted the way that you play your army, you build your list. Maybe a unit has been more attractive, like the Briar Queen, or maybe a rule change has come in that has made your army less attractive. So I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are. Otherwise, I hope this video was helpful, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope you found that discussion valuable. If you did, give the video the old thumbs up. And if you have a comment or an insight, leave it in the comment section below. The champions over here are my AOS Coach Patreons and YouTube members. So you guys are bloody legends. Thank you for all the support. If you want to know more about the support programs, the links are below down here in the episode description, along with a link to the Discord server, so we can continue this conversation. Until next time, don't forget to name your characters and have a good one.